Crazyhouse World Championship. This is the Candidates 2002, and we are in the first round. And this morning, Swedish time, we are watching Kleerkast of the Netherlands versus mastertan from Australia. I think both players are online and they are off. Mastertan playing white in the first game. They will play 10 games regardless of the outcome, because in the candidates every game counts. And as you can see, they are evenly matched elo-wise, both at 2600 plus. And obviously they are both very experienced players, and I expect a very close match here. Let's see who has done his homework better when it comes to the openings. This is a classic piece sacrifice in the opening, and actually not so many players like to accept the piece sacrifice, because if you take on f6, the pawn takes. Black gets great piece play here. Instead, white tries to make use of his extra space here in the center. But black has deployed his bishop outside the pawn chain, which is good in a French setup. One idea here for black is to run with the h-pawn just to secure the h5 square, so white doesn't let a knight there, but also to give this rook some extra scope, and then you can just rush the h-pawn up the board. And since the pawn chain is looking in this direction, I think maybe castling short is slightly dubious. Yeah, instead he chooses the h-pawn run. As you can see from the previous encounters, mastertan has a huge lead, but in their latest encounters it's very evenly, the results are very even. So rook b8 foreseeing a trade here on c6 when the rook will be well situated on the b file. And I like how mastertan is handling this, avoiding trades, because when you avoid trades, the extra space will usually tell. Maybe black will simply run out of moves. Maybe it's time to provoke that bishop on b5 a little bit. Black will need something to get an attack going. And forgive me for my slightly whiskyish voice. I have a slight cold today. Do we have an audience? Welcome, those of you who are watching. So what can black do with the bishop in hand? Now that the h-pawn has left the h5 square, the h5 is available for a knight. Putting pressure here on g7 and also on f6. Also making this rook slightly less active here on the h file. Note that the rook is threatening b2, and a pawn is probably just what black needs to get his attack going. So I don't quite understand this idea actually. What if the bishop just drops back to g6? Because I think black has some excellent coverage here. Okay. So this was a nice idea, threatening e6 and h7. What is the solution here? So black doesn't waste any time here, gives up this rook just to avoid any material losses. This threatens g8, also covers e6. And now black will, white will need to just push forward, because if black gets the time to put those light pieces on the board, this will be over, I think. It's tempting to place the bishop here, but pawn g4, bishop takes here, bishop pawn at f5 is slightly annoying. Maybe you should just, retreat with the king. And now is the question, do you just retreat? Because I'm a bit worried here for black. Let's say the rook drops here, and maybe you can just give your queen for... But mastertan has a completely different idea. Gaining a knight for probably c5. But was there anything wrong with rook f7 first? Now black has a very strong threat here. Bishop at g3 takes, and queen h2 mate. And let's say white defends with pawn here. Then black just takes on g3. Kleerkast down to his bare increment here. He needs to find something quickly. He's really creative when it comes to mating attacks, but he's so low on time here. And renewing threats of bishop at g3 here. Also there's the threat of knight at f3 here, followed by queen g2. And I wonder if white... Is there a way to defend this? I don't see it. Is there some way to defend both threats? I guess the answer was no. So queen here, picking up the bishop, looked neat. Notice that white has a threat of his own now. Knight at h7, which is mate, was mate. And now knight h7, picking up this, picking up the queen. Now you can take here. And this is over. Very tense first game, and let's have a quick recap here. What was happening? I think white was doing quite fine here, but retreating with the bishop was probably stronger. Just keeping the pieces on the board favors the player with a more with the extra space. Actually taking on g7 looks interesting, yeah. So this is a very unclear position. Rook takes h5 was indeed the best choice. But white got a tremendous attack here. And I thought, yeah, rook at f7 was much better. Okay, so this was unclear. Okay, let's go back. And mastertan is actually using the same opening. Instead he puts his bishop on g4, which allows f3. So slightly different setup. And the Kleerkast actually takes the extra piece. And this is a favorable way of capturing the piece, because you can use the black queen as a stepping stone for placing pieces on the board. And this move closes the f-file, threatens the bishop here. So in this position, maybe you take on h7, yeah, rather than taking the pawn. So effectively trading a rook for a light piece. And these light pieces are starting to swarm the black position. Can't you just take it with the king? Or is it too dangerous? Yeah, he decides it's safe. And the Kleerkast is a brave man, just pushing forward rather than retreating. And now is the question, do you put a piece on the board, or do you spend a tempo saving this knight? How dangerous is it to take on e5? So he decides it's worth some material to start putting pieces on the board instead. But this piece cluster here is not so well coordinated, actually. I'd say black has plenty of compensation in this position. No, fighter, or however you pronounce your handle. I'm commenting on the Crazyhouse Candidates, so I'm quite busy here. And don't forget, the pawn is threatening the black queen here. And the black queen is... she doesn't have that many squares to go. If you go here, a knight at e3 at some point will win the white queen, so I wonder if you can you take here? Yeah, it's certainly an interesting move. Although the white king is... oh, I thought he would go in the other direction, hiding on c1 and capturing on f1 with the bishop instead. This looks very dangerous for for white. I don't like this at all. So you probably pick up the bishop with the queen with the rook. White will need to take back with the bishop, and then maybe pawn h2. Or does white have something here? Yes, this is Crazyhouse. So whenever you pick up a piece from your opponent, it changes colors and joins your team. Well, it depends on what you mean by good. I'm rated maybe top 25 or 30 in the world. I really don't care much about where I'm rated. I just played for fun. So, black is okay in this match. 1-1. And in this game, mastertan chooses to trade on d5, where we get a completely different opening. Good for you, fighter. And when you start thinking this early in the game, it's not a very good sign. I suppose bishop at b2 is worth looking at, but the white attack will develop very quickly after knight at h5. When you can't play rook g8 because of bishop takes h7. So black decides to throw in a defensive move here, and white quickly goes after the dark squares. Hampovsky. Haven't heard of Hampovsky. Is it someone I should know? Sometimes I guess you could just take on g6. But is this... I suppose mastertan thinks it's time to kill that black king. He has great coordination here. And very well defended. You want to keep probably this knight covering d2 just to avoid any counterplay. But how do you do this? Bishop here, king takes, bishop here maybe. Winning the queen, is it enough? So this is a much slower move. And now suddenly I'm not entirely convinced anymore. It will be very difficult for black to defend this, but I think maybe it's possible now. So this move, well, it puts the queen on the board, increasing the board control for black, but also it ties this bishop in a slightly awkward position. Watch out though for bishop at d3. Possibly trapping the black queen. But Kleerkast uses this old cliche that offense is the best defense. So interesting check here, forcing pawn at g7, and now suddenly black is sort of out of stuff to put in between the bishop and the queen. I suppose retreating the knight. You could retreat with the knight. Watch out for queen at f7. There is no time to pick up this knight. Ooh. But is this really enough? It can't be. With the pawn here, it would be all over, but alas, black only has a bishop in hand, and mastertan takes this. I'm curious here in the opening. Yeah, bishop at g6 is not a good sign. Black sort of drifts into a passive position, but surely there was something better here. Yes, actually, knight e5. And here I suggested bishop here, king takes, and then bishop g5, but knight f7 is good as well. This is bad, actually. Is there an attack here? Yeah, he has a pawn in hand. Pawn here. Yeah, this is way too dangerous. But knight f7. Tips to, well, just start analyzing. The more you analyze, the better you get at it. So, great positional game here by Tan the Man. Sorry, mastertan, not Tan the Man. And what happened in the opening here? Kleerkast switching to d4 with a fianchetto setup. And this is an interesting way of countering this. d5 closes this diagonal. Probably a good idea as well. White with the better space. So white probably a bit better here. Black maybe running out of good moves, but there are still good moves. You could put the rook on the b file. h6 is a bit provocative, but certainly playable, I think. And sometimes this knight can move somewhere, and then you can pick up this knight. Oh, rook b8 was bad because of this fork, naturally. now, how is... Okay, so white is a little bit weak on the light squares here. He decides to go for a queen sacrifice, but I'm not sure if black will take it here, because after knight takes here, black is weak around his king. And this is a nice move. White can take, because there's a mating threat on g2 after the bishop recaptures. Now black will simply take on h4, I suppose, and he'll be enjoying a very nice position. You can probably simply take with the queen here. Threatening bishop at f3, take here. And a move like bishop f3 is still interesting. You need to go king h2. And these bishops are really dominating the position. Probably queen takes. Black is looking for a queen trade. And was that a pre-move or? Because this is simply winning for black. Knight h4. And now we found knight h4 and mate on h2. 3-1 mastertan. So Kleerkast clearly in need of a win here. And this line didn't go well at all in the last game he played with black. And Kleerkast trying to find a good way to deviate. I think bishop b4 is playable here. So mastertan is looking for a way to make use of this early black queen exodus. Just like in chess, it's a bit dangerous to bring your queen out early in the game, because it could become a target. So yeah, probably just castle here, and I don't think black has time to pick up a pawn here. He risks getting so far behind in development. But he does pick up this pawn. This is gutsy. Notice though how he put his bishop here on h5, provoking knight f3, where the knight is slightly passive, and also covering f7. But knight f3 also covered d4, so the black queen is gasping for breath here. a3 is a safe square, but you could also start looking for ways to sacrifice the queen for some compensation. So let's say the bishop takes, I think white can take, and then if the king takes, you have knight e5, when the bishop on h5 is doomed. But if you take here, black could take on f3 maybe. And then the question is, can you take with the queen maybe? No, you can't. Because queen takes, and then knight here, pawn, knight at f4, it's mate. Instead, mastertan is just trying to keep things under control. e7 is a safe square, but the black pieces are not so well coordinated then. So he prefers trying to be semi-active here on a6. But this is a nice bishop move, the typical dual purpose bishop move. Although it allowed pawn e4 here. White is just pushing forward here. Black trying to hang on. I would probably have preferred pawn e4. It's usually better to be active, so you don't end up with all your pieces in your lap. Now we have this position where you need to decide, do you use one of your pieces on the board just to complete your development, or do you figure that you need to start putting the pieces you have on the board? Because black has a slight material lead here, but white is enjoying the initiative. And let's say king takes, knight g4, g5, knight takes e6. That could be very dangerous. Here, probably bishop g6. And active defense, knight e4. This is even more active. Knight e4, there was a knight fork on c7. Sorry, I missed this. But it seems as if black has everything in order now, doesn't he? Knight e4. You need to put the knights on the board somewhere. Either e4 or c4 looks reasonable. Never mind. I shouldn't say never mind losing a rook there. Actually, it's quite annoying. But maybe you need to give up one more rook here. Take the queen. Never mind the rook here, because, oh, he had this little trick. King takes. Pawn here, rook b8. It's checkmate. Nice find there by mastertan. Who's in the lead 4-1, and either of these players could be a contender for one of the top 2 spots. It's the candidates, so usually it's just the winner. The winner takes it all. The right to challenge the world champion. But Katask, the reigning world champion, will probably not defend his title. So this candidate tournament will be extremely interesting. Some of the best players are not participating, which makes this a very, so to speak, an open affair. Anyone could win this. And how is queen takes f6 here? The idea is pawn takes. No, there I'm blind. Knight h6. There was no knight h6. Just forget what I said. I want a pawn here so I can go pawn g5. Is it possible to pick up b7? And then pawn g5. And this is why I don't really care for improving my own game. I'm just too lazy to calculate, but let's say pawn, bishop takes here. Knight takes, pawn g5. Do you take, knight g6? I wonder here, is this really good? Because rook g8 not only defends g7, it also creates some potentially very nasty threats. Well, you might as well just grab whatever material there is. I suppose bishop g6 just to defend f5. Although knight f5 doesn't actually threaten anything immediately. Yeah, bishop g6 looked like the safe option. And surely black is doing better here with 2 pieces up. I don't think there is enough compensation here. Far from it. Introducing the h5 square for a knight check. Also there is knight e8 at some points. Can't you take here now? How is this? The idea is knight takes and push the pawn, and then, but it looks very dangerous because the pawn will promote. White found another way, and this is probably better. Now you have bishop check on g7. Or you could take the bishop, or some combination of those two moves. Maybe pick up f6 and then take g6. Now it's starting to look dangerous, actually. And this bishop is doing a great job defending a little bit. This is so complicated. Just a few moves ago, I thought Mastertan was cruising to yet another victory, but this is super dangerous now. Look at this pin. And let's say knight at c6. Maybe you can just push the pawn. Or even take and push. And this is good as well. Knight takes, knight e7, rook takes, checkmate. And I don't see a defense here for black. And there's knight f6 checkmate actually in a couple of moves. Yep, that's it. King here, knight d7, or yeah, you can play it this way also. But bishop takes e7 was checkmate in the next move. So, great comeback here by Kleerkast, who was almost certainly not doing so well at some point. Maybe bishop at g6 was too passive. Because after this, actually, white has recovered nicely. Look at that move. Queen takes f4. Classic Crazyhouse queen sack. And with this kind of initiative, white is simply winning. Okay. Nice one. And here we are looking at some new opening, knight at a5, which either is good or it could also possibly be quite bad, I suppose. Bishop b4, picking up the knight, Surely this isn't good for white. And maybe in this position, how is queen takes d4? Queen takes d4? Isn't queen takes d4 strong here? Maybe black missed a chance. But this should be fine for black as well. I don't like the poor coordination for white. Black has some very natural moves to play here, and this knight is not really participating, unless white gets a pawn in hand, when pawn b7 is obviously quite nice. So do you go for knight h4 maybe, threatening to take? So this is also a powerful move. Gives black the chance to decide for himself when to trade queens. Not so easy here. I suppose you need to defend. Black is slightly cramped. So, yeah, probably just castle. Play f6, open up the game somehow. And that looks really, really, really risky. The black attack could come so quickly. It's always more difficult to defend a long castle position because this square is more weak, and also there's an empty square in the corner where your opponent can put a heavy piece, creating almost instant mating threats. And you need to look out for moves like knight takes here. How is the queen trade? Maybe it's not so good right now, but that's the sort of things that might pop up. Or bishop takes here. So black goes for it. Bishop takes, queen takes, and white obviously didn't want to bring his king out on the board, but now we have these kind of problems that I mentioned with the heavy in the corner at some point, and black is preparing this. Takes, queen here, and then simply, or what do you do? No, you can go knight d3 maybe. It's not so easy. Rook takes. Or have I missed something? Pawn takes here. Where is the mate? Knight here. Rook takes. Maybe you can just take the rook. And what looked so innocuous just a couple of moves ago is suddenly it's super dangerous. So this is the right move order. Well, you need to take with the rook. And now, I suppose I would take with the rook, just to bring it close to the king. Sometimes you can just pick up some more material, or maybe pick up this rook. Because I don't see anything dangerous coming in the other direction. And this is probably just because you want to get the queen out. Maybe trade rooks here, just to... Yeah, this is a neat idea. Now the queen is closer to the king. The queen is an excellent mating net fixer, because the queen blocks these exits. And don't lose on time now, Kleerkast. You might have messed this up a little bit, but don't lose on time. Come on. Come on. Oh, this is the wrong direction. And as I mentioned in the opening, black missed an excellent opportunity here. Queen takes d4. But here before long castle, it's not so good, but it's not so good after. Okay, so even here bishop takes c5. The computer recommends king takes d2. I didn't find anything immediate here, but this is just super winning. So there was a forced mate. Let's just look at this. Aha, queen here. This was a bit original. And pick up this rook. This was the easiest way. But this is also obviously very, very good. Take with the rook, of course. Rook e1, preventing any escape from the king. And actually the computer recommends e takes. But I like to keep the pawn here just to avoid the king escaping. And here, yeah, rook d5 looks very natural. And obviously black is still in great shape here, but he lost on time. And you can't afford losing on time. So, here, interestingly enough, white opts for a e4 setup when black plays the early b6, and I think this is a good decision, because this slightly takes the poison out of the light squared bishop. White just takes some extra space here, and as you can see, black is struggling a little bit to find good moves. So probably a slight advantage here for white, who has managed to bring his king to relative safety, and his rooks are very good in the defense also. Although I must say that the dark squares look quite interesting here for black. So this threatens g7, threatens the pawn on f4. You probably need to allow knight takes g7. So black finds his own threat. And black handles this in a very active way. He got his queen to h4. That's usually a very good sign. And what about knight g5 here? Knight to g5. I can't see how white will survive after knight at g5 here. Oh well, this still looks promising, I suppose, but if you take here, probably no. This is black has a threat here of rook h2 mate. And I don't see how he can make any threats here. Black is just so safe. Queen takes, bishop or pawn f6. But then you can take g3 maybe. Although, especially after bishop here, bishop f6 is probably a lot better, because then you can start hammering on the white queen. I wonder if white is looking to take here on e5 with his queen. This is the queen and this is the king. What about queen takes here? Is it nothing? Because otherwise black will just put pieces here on the dark squares. And now this is really close to working, isn't it? Queen takes, pawn takes. This could possibly work, actually. Now you can pick up the bishop at some point, if needed. One more knight was all he needed, but... Oh. Knight f2, isn't this simply winning? And maybe you can even just take the queen. Black figures that white doesn't have anything, but this is looking quite nasty. And indeed it was mate. That was an epic game. And black is doing fine here. I like the way black handled this. Switching his pieces over to the king side when... So this was not so good. I suggested this move, but there's a pin here. Okay. So this is supposedly good for white, but I honestly can't see it. G5 was the best move. So rook f1 here. Oh, this is a mess. And I recommended bishop at f6 here, but apparently it's still good for white. Well, I suppose the computer is right and I'm utterly wrong. And here black missed a forced mate. So bishop at h1 is mate in 2. And all of a sudden black isn't winning anymore. And he found a very nice finish here. Okay, what do we have here? It's 5-3, mastertan in the lead. This could very well end up in a tie. And black has played in provocative style here. White is using his extra tempo to crash through on the queen side, but I wonder whose threats are the more important ones, because black is threatening this knight, at some points threatening this knight as well, but he's also threatening maybe bishop e2 or... Let's say maybe a4, queen takes, knight c6, something like that. Okay, so he wants a bishop for c6, I guess. So my gut feeling is that this is good for black. But I can't really prove it. And this brings some order to the black defense. Covering c6, and now the knight is hanging. Wonder if bishop g4 is a move here. My idea was if white plays pawn f3, you pick it up and play pawn e2. Seems like white got away here a little bit. For instance, knight d5 looks very annoying. You can't even play queen e6 and defend because there is a knight fork on c7. And if white gets the opportunity to take, or rather when he gets the opportunity to take on e7, if black recaptures, he will be having some really big problems after bishop to g5 check. Okay, this is the kind of position where you can probably play pawn f6, pawn takes, and queen g7, which looks very annoying. And white spotted that opportunity. Yeah, you probably just put your king in the corner. And I don't see it for black here. I'm sorry. After queen g7, this is just lost, I think. Notice also that the queen covers g2 could be or could not be important. And now the black attack is far, far away. You could probably just take on f6. And now possibly just take the rook. Looks interesting. And white is just enjoying a tremendous initiative here. At some point you will pick up the knight here probably. But not just yet. So this queen covers b7, threatening bishop e7 followed by rook d8 mate. And this move prevents the exit here. So white just resigned. Oh, sorry, black just resigned. And mastertan wins this match. It's 6-3. And let's see if Kleerkast can keep the damage to a minimum. In this kind of position, you need to be active as black. You don't want to drift into a passive position where white can just play natural moves and black will run out of good moves. So maybe you play pawn at g4 followed by h5. The sort of position you want to avoid is like castle, rook e1, trade here, and let's say bishop g7, rook b1, where white is in great shape. You need to play precise moves as black here to stay in the game. And Mastertan is trying to find a precise move. And if pawn at f6 is the precise move in this position, I don't think it was the precise move in this position. It just looks too premature. You show your hand too early. I'm not sure pawn at h6 was the right way to handle it. I would have preferred just to play some chess here. Rook e1, and then if black castles, surely, yeah, pawn h6. Oh well. Because the risk here is that black can make use of their g file. Although now is an excellent opportunity to just protect the pawn here on h6. With something on h6, protect the g7 pawn. Because this is just positionally hopeless for black. This bishop threatens h7. You must play f5 here, and this position is just hopeless. Just hopeless. So with the rook on e1, sometimes, let's say, black plays his bishop here. If you can get a knight in hand somehow, you can actually take on f5, pawn takes, and knight f6, smothered mate. And maybe something like pawn at c5 is the way to go, just to get a knight. It certainly looks interesting. Let's say pawn at c5, knight d5 takes, bishop takes f5. White chooses another method of opening up the game. Obviously, after some trades here and bishop takes here, also pawn at f6 could be interesting. So maybe pawn e4 looks good. Pawn takes, bishop takes. Looks hopeless. White just keeps putting pieces on the board. With one more pawn in hand, pawn at g6 would be very interesting. Maybe pawn at g6 is interesting anyway, because pawn takes, maybe knight takes here. And now that you have the extra pawn here, what do you do? Well, white is just moving in for the kill. Maybe recycle this bishop. This move cuts off the rook from the defense. What is the correct? I think maybe knight e6, king here, queen c7, and then take on d6 with a queen. Wasn't that mate? But apparently he found some other mate. Aha, okay. Take here. Yeah, checkmate. So 6-4. Mastertan wins this match from the first round. Let's have a quick look at this game. I found it quite interesting. And the computer doesn't like pawn f6. Actually, he likes pawn h6. So this is probably just super strong. Why is this bad? Bishop h6. Okay, like this. Which one do you take with? Okay, so the knight. And this is just hopeless for black. So black tried to hang on by delaying the capture on g7, but that allowed white to protect the pawn and provoking f5. A lot of interesting moves here. This one looks particularly interesting. How on earth do you defend against pawn f5, f7 here? So white played d5 instead. Still good enough. I was looking at, what was I looking at? Oh, never mind. And there's actually an immediate win here with queen f8. And the calm move here, bishop takes d6, wins on the spot. Okay. So, nice finish. Kleerkast loses 6-4. And I wonder if someone has been quick to fill in this form. Nope. As you can see, one match finished before this, and that was quite an upset. Blitzbullet, the highest rated player, lost big to Legion Destroyer. So this is going to be exciting all the way to the finish line, I think. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you don't mind if I try to find some channel to going to be exciting all the way to the finish line. Let's raid someone. No one to raid. That's a pity. Oh well, thank you for watching. See you again soon, and by soon I mean today, 1 p.m. That's in just, it's 10:30 here, almost 2.5 hours or so. We will see Fumitox and Bugzilla fight it out. That will be interesting. See you again then, and take care. Bye bye.